I just want to do God's will.
The kind of revolution that the world needs is a Christian revolution.
If you want a miracle, you've got to expect it to happen.
You are the recipients of God's grace and God's blessings, and you rejoice in that reality.
Welcome to Life Today Live. All right, this is one of my fun ones. You guys know that I love movies and I love music, and I really enjoy. I mean, I like, the good Christian artists. Josh Baldwin was just on. Love his worship stuff, but man, when you find that new artist, that new album, that like just there's something about something new that's just fun, and so that's today. I've got someone for you to meet that I know a lot of you are really going to enjoy. Her name is Leanna Crawford. She has an album that is called Still Waters, a song by the same name, and this is her first album, and it's really good. I was listening to it, and I'm like, yeah, let's definitely do this one. So you're going to get to hear a little more about her. There's some interesting little, sort of factoids about Leanna and her, we'll say, family. You'll just have to find out. I can't play the music for you, but afterwards you can go find some wherever you listen to music. And you'll want to, because you'll like her like I do. So appreciate you guys being here. Hit that share button. If you know someone that loves good music, go ahead and hit that share. Say, hey, you need to check out this artist. And Leanna, welcome to Life Today Live. Great to have you on the program today.
Well, thank you so much for having me. So excited to be here.
All right, so I could talk about my impressions of your music, but you tell me about your music and the album, and just give us a little bit of the overview of Still Waters. And first of all, on the cover, where is that?
Yeah, thank you. Love, that is actually, I'm from Washington State. And I moved to Nashville 6 years ago. Felt God call me to Nashville to kind of pursue songwriting and music. Not that I believe now you have to do that in Nashville, it's the only city. I just feel like that's where he was opening the door for me. But I grew up in the Northwest, and I've been putting out music since 2018, but for this album, kind of like looking for it, I really wanted to do all the visuals and video and picture elements back home in the Northwest. So that photo is at a lake, and I cannot remember the name of this lake. I know it's in the mountains because it was a lake that my photographer knew of, and he had done pictures there. And we literally got up. We had shot 2 days, and so the day before, we did a whole music video in the desert, and it was like so cool. There's a desert in Washington, which is East Washington. Anyways, then we drove back into the mountains, and we got in maybe at like midnight, and we had to get up at like 3:30 a.m. to get the sunrise. And so I was like, this is all, I was like, we're in it. And I did not sleep at all. And I did my makeup that morning, on the way there, and it's like pitch black outside. And then we get to the lake, and we were just all, I don't even think my videographer, photographer, I don't think they slept that night. I think they were just like hanging out, and then they were just excited. So the first take, like we were doing music videos and pictures, but we were like kind of all it was very emotional and beautiful, but I think it was mostly because we hadn't slept. But this photo was from that morning. I think it was taken like right at sunrise, like 4:35 a.m. So it was quite a beautiful morning. But yeah, that's where that was from.
Yeah, and it looks like you're kneeling in prayer, but actually you're dozing off, I think. So okay.
Yeah, it really does. It kind of was like perfect. I'm like reaching down in the water, but it is like I'm kneeling. I should tell people that I was kneeling. It's more spiritual.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, okay, but I've listened to the lyrics, and there's no pun intended on the water. There's some deep lyrics. I mean, where does this come from when you write? Because you do write all. Did you write all the songs on this one, or just?
Yeah.
You wrote them all. Okay, all the ones I saw, but I didn't know. I didn't check the credits on every single one. Where do you draw from?
Yeah. I mean, I think several places. I think a lot of it is what I feel like God is what he's teaching me. There was I journal a lot and I pray a lot in my journal entries. So like a lot of it is kind of like I want the album. I mean, a lot of my songs I kind of feel like they're like, here's my heart, here's my journal, like here it is. But a lot of the songs, and thanks for saying that. A lot of the songs are really stuff that I'm like kind of going through, or that I've kind of even walked through. I think music and songwriting has been a really amazing way for me to process life, and I've kind of always been that way. Really since high school, like 15, 16, I was just like processing things through writing songs. And so this album is that for me. And when people listen to it, I want them to feel, I want them to feel a sense of peace. I want them to, be reminded that the Lord is my shepherd, and of that promise that, like, if he is, then okay, he's going to lead me beside still waters. I don't need to worry, even if the world is chaotic, even if everything around me is chaos. I know that I can find peace in him, peace that passes all understanding. And so that's kind of like all 14 tracks on the album is like I want that. But I think also the songs being so honest, and kind of really a piece of my heart, song form. I want people to like know they're not the only ones that go through stuff. I think the enemy wants to tell us that we're alone in our struggles, that we're alone in our anxiety and in our depression. And I think then he feels like he can kind of get us on our own, and then we feel like, okay, we've failed, we're not enough. All the lies we tell ourselves that have been spoken over us. Whereas when we bring those to the light, when I can share, hey, I've walked through all this stuff. I've walked through a lot of this. Like, I have felt so low and so broken, and God was constant and steady and good in my life, and he's the same for you too. Like, I think when we bring stuff into the light, when we're like, hey, you're not alone in that, I think it helps me anyways when I hear someone say that, and I'm like, okay, I'm not crazy, I'm not the only one. And this album, I dreamed about putting out my first record for a long time, and a few years ago I thought that I would not. I was kind of ready to be done with music. I had just moved to Nashville in 2018, and then 2020, I got, for a lot of different reasons, and we can go into that deeper, but I was actually very depressed and struggled with a ton of anxiety, and I was like, just kind of like, I don't think music thing is for me. I don't think maybe this is not where I'm supposed to be. And I'm very grateful because God was very kind in that season and put different people in my life to speak truth over me.
Can I ask just a little bit about that? Because I mean, a lot of people deal with a lot of issues, what we generically call emotional health, and that can be a range of things. Was it because of COVID? Was it because you talk about moving to Nashville for music, and I've known several people to do that, and that is that's hard because there's so much talent in Nashville, and there's a little bit of sometimes the marketing angle that gets in the way of the music angle, if you know what I mean. And so it can be a a rude awakening for a lot of people trying to make that jump. And I know you know that. Or were there other personal issues? Was it, or just a swirl of things?
Yeah. So it was kind of it was a lot of things all at once. Everyone had told me, people back home, people in the industry, especially when I first moved, and before, they're like, okay, the music industry is really hard. It's really hard. And I was like, thank you for the encouragement. I really appreciate it. But they were just giving me forewarning of like, hey, it's going to be really tough. And especially when I first moved to Nashville, I felt like I had all these doors opening for me. I was on tour. It was like a very wonderful season, and everything was new and exciting, and I was like, this isn't hard, this is so fun, and I'm super grateful, right? Like, I was like, this is amazing, and I was like, I don't want to hear that. And I think people were trying to say that in kindness of like, hey, it's not always going to feel this way, it's not always. And so I think it was out of people's kindness, and also just like, hey, it's you've kind of been on your journey over here, but you need to step into reality. And so I had just signed my record deal end of 2019 with Provident, and that's where I still am, and I'm super grateful for that. But it was kind of like I had my timing of things, and God had His timing of things, and our timelines were not the same. Usually I like have my plan, and when I got signed, which is actually fairly quick, honestly, to move to Nashville in 2018, be signed, a year and a half later, 2 years later.
Yeah.
I mean, some people, wait 10 years or five,
Yeah.
but in my mind, I thought I would move to Nashville and I would have a record deal. I was like, that's okay, that's what's going to happen. And that was my timeline. But I had certain plans, and I was like, if I didn't hit those goals, if I didn't hit those numbers or whatever it was, I thought, immediately I have a number one, immediately I'd have all this stuff. And I felt like I had failed. I felt like I had failed the people that believed in me. And when I signed the record deal, I was like, okay, now everything's going to be easy. Well, no, that's like not. The work is just starting at that
Exactly.
point.
Yeah.
And then I was putting out my first project, my first EP, my first songs, and like right when I did that, COVID happened. And kind of right before that, I'd been on tour a lot, but I had just, even with the record deal happening, and there was so much, in hindsight now, I'm like, I was just so naive to know that was a very sweet season. But at the time, I just felt like I wasn't doing enough. I had felt like such a failure. I felt so unworthy. I felt like I was just kind of faking it. Like it was just all these lies, things that had been spoken over me, things that I'd been telling myself. It was just like a lot of things. And so when COVID happened, I had my whole 2020 lined up. I had all my shows lined up. I had everything lined up, and everything got canceled. Like for everybody, right? It was just the whole thing. And I was all of a sudden stuck at home with my thoughts, and I had to live with this, like, I'm not enough, I'm a failure, like I'm unworthy, I'm a fraud, all the things. I'm not a good songwriter, I can't even sing, like everything. And I was stuck with that. And I wasn't productive like a lot of my artist friends were, songwriter friends. They were writing whole albums during COVID. They're like, we have all this time. And I was stuck in my really depression that I didn't even know. I tried to sit at the piano. I tried to sit with my guitar, and I tried to write and be inspired, and I would just cry because I felt like such a failure. Like it was very dark, and I'm a generally pretty like joyful person. Like I love life. But it was a very like hard season for me. And my sweet sister, who moved to Nashville with me in 2018, and we worked together now. She's on the road with me, just the best. We lived together during that season, so she saw me at my very worst. And I really believe like God like had her in my life the whole time. We're 16 months apart. I feel like she's like my little angel, but especially in that season, she spoke such truth over me when I felt like I just did not believe in myself. The things that I spoke to myself, the things that I said. It's wild now, 4 years later, because I'm like, I've grown so much, and I feel like God's been so kind. But she's like, I don't recognize you anymore. It's not the same. You're not the same person that you were when we first came. You're not this like. There's and she was saying so in love, but she was like, I think you need to go to counseling. She was like, I think you need, and there is this incredible counseling in Nashville. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's called Porter's Call, and it's for artists specifically, whether they're signed or independent, and it's free. And I have no barriers to entry here. I just didn't want to go because I just did not want to go to counseling. And I just was like, I'm not doing that. And she really, really encouraged me and was like, you need to go. You need to just like send the email. You need to do it. And she kept doing that until I finally booked an appointment, and I went, and I just cried. I had just been holding a lot in, and slowly but surely, and I think a huge piece of that was going to counseling. But I just felt like God continued to show up in my life, and my sweet counselor was like, hey, like you don't have to do this. You don't have to do music. She's like, I recognize like it's really hard. And I think I was like, well, no, I'm supposed to do this. This is what I'm here for. But I think it was all of a sudden I was like, oh wait, no, like this is it's supposed to be a beautiful thing. It's supposed to be ministry. It's supposed to be like this is supposed not fun all the time. It's still work, but it's supposed to be like, I get to do music for a living. And at the time I just felt so much weight to be perfect, to have all these things, all the numbers, all the things. And I just could not imagine it. So all of that, slowly but surely, and I was kind of like, I don't know if I'm supposed to do music anymore. And I kind of gave myself this freedom, and God was just so kind through counseling, through my sister, through a bunch of different people, to kind of be like, no, I think you're supposed to keep doing this. And I'm very glad I did. And I started to write more, write again. I was back in the writing room, and a lot of those songs, are on the album that I was writing during that season. So that's a lot, but there it is.
Well, and you're not alone. That's the thing. And other people who are going through it need to know they're not alone either, and that there is hope. It's interesting that the title of your album, Still Waters, is in Psalm 23. He leads me beside still pastures and behind quiet water, depending on the translation. But there's that element definitely in the psalm. But the next line is that he restores my soul, or in other versions, he refreshes my soul. Did you find that your soul was refreshed?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think especially now, it didn't happen overnight, but I think I talk about, even in my live show a lot, I'll just share, like, I feel God's, like, his consistency, and he's so, like, steady throughout, and he always is, and he's always good. But, like, when I doubted, when I was afraid, like, he was so constant, and I do feel like my soul has been refreshed. It's been, like, restored, and I think I'm at a I'm at a much healthier place. Not that it's like everything's good all the time, but I'm very grateful that he was so kind during that season, especially because I don't know. I think this album is. I love that. I love that. I think it is kind of like I feel refreshed. I'm very grateful.
And a lot of people know the psalm, especially because of, like, funerals and stuff. But one of the next line after that is, in the King James I grew up with, is like, "Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death." Very
Right.
kind of Shakespearean, beautiful poetic word. Newer versions say, "Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, because you're with me." What I find interesting about that is not just poetry. I think there's deep truth, because when you're in that dark valley,
Yeah.
whether it's death or depression, whatever it is, the darkness that's there, I think we have to keep walking. And that part of that walking sometimes just means getting out of bed,
Yeah.
but I think it can mean getting someone to walk beside you, which is what counseling does. Because the beauty is that there's no darkness, or there's no shadow, I should say, without a light. And I think there's always hope. So whatever shadow you find yourself under, it's not, I would say it's not darkness. It may be a shadow, but there is a light out there. You just got to keep walking. And that's what I hear what you said you did. Your sister encouraged you. Hey, you need someone to walk with you. The counselor walked with you, and you get out of that valley, and I think people need to hear that. I love, though, that they don't have to hear it. They don't have to hear it alone. They can listen to your music and be encouraged. And I know that's not just a cute transition. Truly, I do. There's a weird thing about music, and I know it's not the same for everybody. Excuse me. But music, it's somehow, to me, speaks to the soul on a deeper level than just spoken word.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing you're that way too. Most musicians are. But there's something about it. What do you want people to hear in their soul as they listen to your music?
Yeah, I mean, I think I want them. I think it's one of my favorite things about music, and always has been, is that I feel like these incredible songwriters and artists will share a song, and I'm like, I feel like they're writing my story right now. I feel like you are writing my story, and that is like the power of music, and I think it's such a gift. I think that's my favorite thing when I see comments on social media, or people share it, shows that they needed one of my songs in a season that's totally different from why I wrote it, or or it was the same, but like their story is being told, and they feel seen and known and loved in the music. And I think that is like, and that's a huge part of my heart, and just what I do is, like, I think it's a hard world out there, and it can be lonely and all the things, and I can't begin to understand what everybody's going through. But if my songs can be an avenue for someone to feel less alone, I'm like so grateful for that. And that's definitely a huge part of my heart behind that.
Yeah, and I think that will happen for a lot of people. All right. A little lighter note. Show people real quick. This is leannacrawford.com. So go there as soon as we stop talking in a couple minutes, because I got a couple of fun things that you'll want to hear, and check out the album and the music and the videos and the beautiful scenery of Washington State. Some unknown lake, mysterious unknown lake. Only a photographer knows about. Okay. When you hear yourself, have you ever compared yourself to an artist who is very well known? I'm just curious. Who do you think you sound like, in other words?
Oh, I don't know.
Or do you not? Because hey, if you told me I just want to develop my own voice, I would totally get it.
Do you have someone in mind, or you're like, do you have someone you're like, oh, she sounds like this person?
Yeah.
Oh, you do?
I do.
I don't know. I would love to hear you, because I feel like
do people tell you? Do people go, oh, you remind me of?
Sometimes, but it's always different. There's someone that people say my voice sounds like, and I think it's more my talking voice than my singing voice.
Well, that
not in Christian music.
No. This is not a Christian artist that I went. Oh, she reminds me of her.
In my talking voice or my
no,
singing voice?
I haven't heard your talking voice until just now. So, no, your singing voice. What do people tell you?
Oh, well, I don't know. I feel like I hear my talking voice. I get Zoe Deschanel.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, I get that a lot.
Not your singing voice. I know from the movie Elf. Not your singing voice.
Yeah, not my singing voice. I have gotten Lauren Daigle before, which I think is so sweet.
Yeah.
That she's in the Christian industry, obviously. I don't know. I'm like super curious
Okay.
who you're gonna say.
Colby,
I love it.
Colby Calais.
Oh, I love that. I grew up listening to her a lot actually. Like I love that comparison.
That but like seriously, like I put on the album and I'm like, oh, she reminds me of somebody, and somebody that I was like, and somebody's voice I did, because I'm a harsh critic, right? As a music fan myself, and someone kind of hobbyist, right? A hack, you know how it makes you. It makes you like really opinionated and all those nasty things.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, oh, I like her voice. And then I went, it reminds me of somebody. And it took me about 3 or 4 songs to go, I got it now. But anyway, that's my comparison.
So. No, I love that comparison. I love that. Thank you.
And the only reason I bring it up is for people watching, if they're curious about a little bit of style and what you sound like. I mean, just go listen for yourself. If you're gonna know. I love your style. Just by the way, love it.
Thank you. That means a lot. Thank
the
you.
other thing that I got to ask you about. I know you hear this. We talked about it before the show started. Let me do a little clicking here, because I'm going to show people a picture over here. This is from ESPN.com. It's hard to see. There's this basketball player up there in the corner named Cody Zeller. I went to Sports Illustrated and got you a bigger picture when he was back with the Hornets. Last season he was with the New Orleans, the Pelicans. I still can't get used to calling them the Pelicans. And now he is with the Atlanta Hawks. Who is this Cody Zeller guy?
This Cody Zeller guy is my husband, which is wild. That's so sweet. He just finished his 11th year in the NBA, which is crazy. And we were talking about this before the show, but for those listening, I did not know anything about the NBA before we started dating a few years ago, and I've learned a lot since then. But yeah, I could talk. Now I feel like I could talk sports all day. Well, not all sports. I could talk a little bit about NBA. I could like hold my own in a conversation, but that's
well, so answer me this. Why don't they call traveling or get rid of the rule?
Oh, see, I agree with you. Let me tell you, okay, I'm always yelling at the TV. I'm like, this is crazy. My dad feels the same way. I'm like, it's so funny. I'm with you.
Okay.
Or they should call it on everybody and make it equal.
Oh, yeah. Okay, see, and that's the other thing. That's my biggest complaint about the sport in general is the subjectivity of the officiating.
Yeah, I mean they're not going to call it on the stars, but
exactly. we know we know what you're saying. You don't just say it. I don't want to get you in trouble with anybody. How did you guys meet?
We met through a mutual friend. We met at a concert, actually. I was opening for an artist that he was friends with. I was playing outside of Charlotte when he still played for the Charlotte Hornets. So he had come to hang out with him. And then we met. This was back in 2018. But we kind of kept in touch, follow each other on Instagram, but literally nothing else. We saw each other one other time. And we started dating in 2020, which was so sweet. And I also, like I just shared, that was a very tough season, but it was also a very beautiful season because we started dating. So it was like very parallel for me, but it was a very sweet season because like 2020, it was just all in God's timing because my schedule all of a sudden, I didn't have the shows I thought I would. And he didn't really have basketball season until December that year. It started like 3 months later, 2 months later. So, and then I got a worship leader position at a church in South Carolina. So actually almost every weekend I would drive to South Carolina and I would lead worship at church and he would come to church with me. And so we kind of like, it was very sweet. So most of our dating relationship, we were all long distance, but the first 6 months we were long distance, but we saw each other like every weekend. So it was very sweet. So anyways,
So God gave us COVID just so y'all could meet.
I know. I kind of feel like that. I'm like, that's terrible, but I'm grateful for that.
Oh, no, we know it didn't come from God. It came from Dr. Fauci. But so how hard is it? I'm going to get comments on that. How hard is it? Because just dating a musician, I've known, spouses of musicians, that's hard because they travel. And that's hard. Just dating and marrying athletes can be very hard because I've known spouses of athletes. That's very hard. When you take a musician and an athlete, how in the world do you guys see each other?
Yeah, a lot of people ask that, which I feel like is a very fair question. Thankfully, he's very organized. And I'm grateful for that. God knew that I needed someone organized and like I'm just super grateful. But especially during basketball season, he will take a look at our schedules and like all the things that we have and make sure, hey, we have some time together this month because especially when we were both in New Orleans, if he went on the road, I actually got to travel with him sometimes. But I would actually come back to Nashville, I would write or I would record or I would have shows. So we had kind of been able to like work it out, but I don't want to say we're used to being apart because we love being together, but because we were long distance most of our dating relationship, pretty much all of it. We have like a little routine and we're pretty good at like FaceTiming every night and we have like a card game that we play on our phone. So that's like kind of how we do long distance, but he is very organized. He actually loves Excel. He's like very good at Excel and that's like, he doesn't put our schedules in Excel, but that's just kind of like, he loves numbers. He's all that. So very grateful. Cause I think without that, I don't know that we would see each other cause we wouldn't be very organized. So he is on top of it and that's good. But we especially in this season, we've been able to like be together. He'll travel with me sometimes too, if he's not, if he doesn't have stuff, but it's a little harder for him to travel sometimes because our travel to shows can be like a little rougher than like and like physically just because he's so big. He's 6'11". He's very tall. Lord. And sometimes we're like in a little car or like I try to get like a little like a minivan even. There's a lot of room in there. But just even that can be hard on him. Yeah. So he's not always out with us, but sometimes he is. So it's good. Yeah.
Last question. At the end of the season, do you pray they don't make the playoffs so you can spend more time with them?
I actually love the playoffs. It's so funny because last year we got married in August of 2023 and he signed with the Miami Heat last year in February, so right before playoffs start in April, and it was kind of just like they needed another center, so he signed with them in February and we were engaged at this point but like planning a wedding. And they were like kind of like middle of the pack, but they were not supposed to like, they barely made the playoffs. We're like 8th seed. And if anyone followed the NBA in 2023, the Miami Heat ended up making it all the way to the finals. And it was like it was a Cinderella story. It was not supposed to happen. And the whole time, every single series, and he had been in the playoffs a few times before with the Hornets, but they'd never made it past the first round. So it was like very special for him too. But it was like we were planning a wedding and every single round he would be like, everyone felt that way. Like we're not going to like they were just, but they played so free because they were no pressure. So that was like, and it's like literally they were like not. I think everyone felt that way. Maybe not, but it literally went until the middle of June, and we got married in August, and we were expecting to be done in April. So it was, but I loved it. I got to go to like all the playoff games and like not all of them, but a lot of them. and like the atmosphere was fun. So I really enjoyed it. I think it's, that's the whole point of why you play, right? If you're competitive and you want to do it, is so you can do the playoffs. And so for him, it was very special, but it was, yeah, very unexpected.
You're never supposed to say, well, the players didn't think they were going to win.
I know. That's so bad. I think they all felt that way. They were all supposed to. It was like never happened before. It was not.
Yeah, all right. If you're going to say it, just double down. That's fine. Okay. All right. LeannaCrawford.com. Still Waters. There's the beautiful artwork for that's her website, actually, but the album looks very much like that. Anything else you want to cover? Anything we missed? It's been a fun time, and truly, you're in the right place with the music. You can sing, and your songs are beautiful. So I know you're going to have some success. But beyond just the success, because we all want to do our jobs well, we should all want success on our jobs. You're also going to bless a lot of people with the message. So.
Thank you so much for having me. I love getting to talk, and yeah, thank you. Did
I miss anything? Did your PR people say, make sure you say this, and we didn't say it?
No, I don't think so. I'm like, I think we're good.
Perfect. Leanna Crawford, thank you so much. Appreciate you guys being here. All right, now's your time. Well, actually, hit the share button. Tell someone else. If you haven't liked, followed, or subscribed, do that. Now, go Google her or go to her website. Go listen to Leanna Crawford's latest album, Still Waters. We'll see you again next time here on Life Today Live.
Abundant springs of grace.